Okay, should be live. So right off the bat, obviously the games on this stream last week went 0-5-1. I'll go over each of them in a bit. Really weird for me to know how to address the audience at all after that. I don't even have like the greatest feel in the world for who even listens to this. I see roughly around 1,000 end up watching these every week. So I don't know how hardcore people are in betting, how much people know variance, how I would like to think most people following me, and given all the disclaimers at the front, would basically not even bat an eye at 5-13 or whatever the games are so far. But certainly the worst been poor. It's not like they're all good size, actually very far from that. And thought, if there's any silver lining to any of this, it might be worth it to kind of go through mental frameworks I have for like dealing with losing. Some math on the situation and just like thoughts on Dunning-Kruger, if that played into this at all, and then talk about the games this week. So should be screen sharing. Yeah, so maybe we can just do the games. Obviously horrible. So the 5 college ones, 3 closed really good, 1 barely closed flat, and 1 closed bad. I thought the one that closed bad was like easily the best bet we made all week. I don't want to turn this segment ever into like just bitching about bad beats. That's a complete waste of time and energy. But A, to reevaluate the teams, and B, the process. And so, the whole handicap basically relying on Arnold, and it's not even really speculation. You can just see it. I don't want to sound rude, but like essentially just not having a brain and fully relying on just being a Madden video game player for freeze with the radio in the helmet, where you can see on these crowds where you can hear, he knows exactly what to do pre-snap. And in these 2 big, like huge SEC road games, he's had no shot. And, rather than bet sides and unders, team total unders, whatever on that one thing, I've just bet against the team. And, kind of an illustration of like how much I'm kind of biting off to chew, or whatever that phrase is, and trying to beat like a fully, completely painted Friday number is like, Oklahoma 2 weeks ago was half 6.5, half 7. I don't count that on the sheet. Last week is a psycho bad beat. There's no under. I'm not doing team totals. Like this thing that I, as humbly as possible, feel like I've completely nailed. And if I'm doing props, team totals, whatever, is 2-0 is up 2 units. Instead, the record keeping on the stream is down 1 unit. That's like a 3-unit swing. So I have like 7 angles like that get bastardized like that. There's a 20, that's not actually how it works. And of course, A&M didn't have to lose. And of course, the team totals didn't have to win. But like, just to kind of illustrate the gap of what I'm trying to do here. But yeah, anyways, like Auburn scored 3 offensive points. I'm pretty sure did not cross the 50. And, in before all the snarky smart Alex, yes, I know their 1 touchdown was on offense. It was a 2-yard touchdown after effectively an 80-yard pick 6. A&M missed 2 way above 50% kicks. They scored the covering touchdown with like 3 minutes left and got called back on an eligible downfield that had nothing to do with the play by like 2 steps. Had 400 something yards. I mean, it's complete and utter domination. And like, frankly, the market is agreeing with this. So I think I made the game 10. Honestly, if it's replayed this week, I think I'd make it 10.5 juice or 11, honestly, and like wouldn't even fight 11.5. And this isn't some crazy Barry Horse defending his honor, being stubborn, confirmation bias, self-serving bias. Like, this is not my opinion. I think SP Plus has Mississippi State favored over Auburn right now on neutral. I don't really agree with that. I'd have Auburn like 3 or so over Mississippi State. But like, you can see in this price right now, like even if you have like crazy numbers, there's nobody who's going to have Auburn more than like 4 over Mississippi State. So the market this week is basically screaming everything I just said is right. Is A&M would be 12, 11, something like that over Auburn this week. So were we stealing there on a painted like 24 hours before the game SEC game? Kinda. I'm sorry. Like A&M's like a pretty legit national title contender, honestly, the way things are this year, rated pretty close to, if not above, a +20. Auburn has no shot playing off the road. They're off of, same thing I've spilled through last week. I think it's a great bet. And, bad beats are going to happen. They're going to happen more if you're a winner and on more good sides than bad sides. Marshall is like pretty crazy. Again, closed amazing. We got pick even money. Chris is booking a -40 for most of the hours in between the show and kick. Basically trying to book to getting Lala plus 25, like having -25 on something we have even money on. They're up 17 the entire second half, with already having given them 3 on a muff punt in the first half. The game's completely over. The game had everything to do with that quarterback Beal, who I hate, and Lala emergency switches to the 4th string quarterback. Marshall pisses it away and loses by 3 in double overtime. I'm going to guess if we bet a bunch of games that pick even money that close or are booked to like minus $1.40 and DVIG'd around 25-30, and they're up 17 for the whole second half, running off the second clock. Unless there's like some big influx of 4th string quarterbacks in football this year who are just amazing, I think those are going to be winners in the long run. I understand these other ones weren't close and not good. Again, I don't want to turn into bitching, but like probably the wrong side, but it obviously was hellacious run out with red zone scoring. And even with Arizona, like you can see in the price, we'll talk about this game this week. Like, yeah, wrong side. I wouldn't rebet it, but I'm not sure that game comes more than 7 or even 7 at all. Just looking like Cincinnati, Iowa State's a dog to Cincinnati this week, seeing what Arizona's priced as and what I know they'd be against Baylor and what they were just against Oak State last week. Like, and I think Chris was booking like 3.5 for a lot of the day on Saturday. I just think if we're taking 6 on games like that, this will work out. So, yeah, as far as those 5, yeah, definitely not good work. And there's zero arguing. Like we deserve to be losing right now. Like whatever. These are 2 pretty bad beats. I think we've had 0 lucky ones. I think, flip those. We're still 6-10 getting crushed. I'm not trying to argue anything like that. Was the NFL one unlucky? I don't know. There's also, I don't want to do it today, but there's also probably a worthwhile discussion around this under 47. Well after like 24 hours after this video last week, was pretty painted 45 flat for like, more than a minute, like a whole afternoon or evening, and then came up to 46. I forget if it closed. I think it closed 46 painted. I forget the math on how this all works. I think that's what 46 painted would be. But there is like an interesting argument around if 45 went to 47 and then closed at 46, is that a better or worse bet than if it just went from 47 to 46 in a straight line and stayed there? Like, was buy up off of 45 signal at all? Did the fact that it got there in the first place make it stronger? Debatable. I know there's a punt return touchdown. I know it took a 2-point conversion, but some stuff did go our way. After seeing last night, I probably was overestimating San Francisco's defensive personnel. And I'm honestly not positive I'd rebet it. So yeah, close good. Some people are saying we got unlucky. I actually am not sure I believe that. I'm not in love with the work on that one. I'm not really in love with any of the work I've done on this video. As I've explained from the start, this is a hard fucking game to play. As you can see, even like, don't go bet it because I don't think this number is good. But even you can see like one of my favorite games for this week was going to be BYU 19.5. That got blasted this morning. Is that because people know I'm doing my stream today? I kind of like BYU, and I just laid this identical pricing in Stanford. I don't know. That's probably conceded. I don't think I'm that important or mean that much, but like there probably is a difference between last year doing the show for 200 people and this year for 1,000. I think one of them got 2,000 people to watch. So, yeah, it's a hard game. I'm not, betting injury steam. I'm not getting like Utah -10 last week that closes 13.5 and you don't have to sweat, like games where you can get good numbers. For a Friday painted number, I'm honestly pretty pleased with this number in AB2. If you're not watching on YouTube, just like what the market said we should be up right now, which is about half a unit. So yeah, look, I'm not gonna lie, like I've lost way more than this. I've been on way crazier downswings. Like this is nothing to me. The mind fuck of doing this in front of people is not like awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Like this hasn't been the easiest week for me thinking about making this video, and easily like way above anything else. Like my priority in life by far tenfold above anything on these free public YouTube streams is like just actually winning, like extracting money from markets myself, whether it's Bitcoin, these games, whatever, just for myself and my family. And then B, basically tied with 2 is making the halftime service win, which is going well so far, and actually winning with partners on the baseball the football games I'm actually getting down on and how this all looks. So I don't think it has. That other stuff's been going well. Baseball's been going very well. I know, sorry to say that way. I hate when people do that. I know nobody on here who's been getting murdered by me wants to hear how well everything they're not a part of is doing. But just to the extent that would, like, I don't know, if I was somebody listening to someone talk, I'd want to know, are they just like tail spinning, spiraling, can't win on anything, blowing up in life, or is this just, 16 football bets that went wrong? So yeah, I have not lost my mind on how sports work or math. But yeah, if I do feel like this is at all distracting or taking away from any of those priorities, I will probably stop this, which would suck. I'd hate to make this a loser, but yeah. Anyways, that's where we're at on the season. The reality is the reality. Like, just in case, I should talk about like regression and doing like all kinds of gamblers fallacies at the risk of insulting people's intelligence. Like, if we even have gotten unlucky, which we obviously probably gotten some unlucky, but not to the extent to deserve to have won so far. That there's zero guarantee that like because these games last year because these games last year were 56.2%, that's definitely how good these games are going to be for the rest of time in perpetuity. And because they're 27.78% so far, now they're going to win at 58% the rest of the year. That's not how regression to the mean works. It's just if these even are 56% true win rate games, which is debatable, the market's calling them 53.5 to 54% winners. But to be fair, they've also called, my baseball that forever and this forever, and I've won more than that. Then that's all we're due for going forwards. If we've been unlucky, we're not now suddenly due for good luck to help us or anything like that. We're just law of big numbers will weed out these 18 or 19 games to look like nothing in the sample of games overall. So, yeah, look, it's a huge hole. This was kind of like the EV of what I thought the whole season was, and we're a month out of the season. So, with what's left, has October been by far my best in football for like 5 or 6 years now? Yeah, but it's definitely fair to say like it's not a favorite that this number is a positive number after the Super Bowl, which sucks and is basically going to be the first time, other than like 20 golf bets that have juiced out in Telegram, basically the first time I've posted stuff that will have like a real sample on the internet publicly that is likely to lose. Now, I don't want to be like doomer and depressed, like there's no way we win. I mean, like obviously we can run good to the good side, and it's above 50% that this number is going to be negative after the Super Bowl, but it's probably not above 20%. Did I do that? Did I word that right? There's probably at least a 20% the season's still a winner, and I think easily way more than 50% going from today through the Super Bowl is easily winner. And like, I don't know, you can do the math, but like, as I've explained from the start on all of these, if I'm going to have 100 games that should go 56 and 44, you got to go 53 and 47 just to make something. If that's what you're doing, 2.5 out of 10 seasons, you're going to lose. So this is not a way to make a living betting these Friday paying numbers if that's what your edge is, and the volume of games you're going to get and the win rate you're going to have, which by the way, like against a Friday paying number on real stuff, like this would be pretty incredible. So yeah, that's why I don't have a business around this. That's why I only do the half times, is I think this number is a lot more. I think we can get this number up a lot more. I don't know if that's realistic, but call it whatever you need to be. Like I'm way, way, way likelier that a halftime season is going to go well. Same thing with baseball. Baseball's not that high, but there's 2,500 games for me to look at. Like I'm going to have enough of a volume that, a horrible stretch like this won't, or where are we? Is not going to ruin things. So yeah, really long-winded message, but like this sucks for me. I don't really want to apologize. I always want my apologies to mean something. I don't know if sorrow is the right word, but I do feel like complete shit. Like it's not lost on me that as much as I start all of these by saying, if you don't have $10 million to lose, don't bet $1 on these. This is a dumb game to play. I know, I might be wrong. Please listen to me. For the record, I'm not just saying that, but I also know how the world works, and like plenty of people are ignoring that message and probably are not thrilled with how these have gone so far. So I feel horrible about that. Like I feel bad. But we can't change yesterday's newspaper. I can just try and make tomorrow's as good as possible. It doesn't look like this is going to be a great year, even if we do like really pretty good the rest of the year. So I'm sure all the trolls have been like hovering around since 2019 baseball with their lasers, watching everything I do, like praying for one moment of like one bad month of downfall where they can all come out of the woodwork. I'm frankly kind of surprised it's taken 6 years for something like this to happen, but it has. And I'm going to keep trying. And believe it or not, I have been trying despite the pathetic results. And I still think the opinion's worth something. So does the market. And, let's hope games like Marshall and A&M don't keep happening. Yeah, I'll start with NFL. It's going slow. Sorry, I just got like a bunch of these. I can take this off. Just in case, it's a crazy day in the market. There's really like a dozen days a year where you just pick money up off the floor, which today was one. And in case the afternoon changes, I want to be aware. So Europe game, I'll try and make this faster too, because ultimately there's no opinion on this number for me. If people are like dying to hear opinions, you can put it in the comments. I'll come back to them. But if I'm like pretty on the number, I'm just going to leave it alone. I will comment here. I'm on the number. There's nothing here. I think this left tackle might be like as important as a left tackle matters. Last year, I was stunned at how effective Vegas's offensive line was, just given the names and personnel. I had massively low expectations, and it was like weirdly almost mediocre at worst how the offensive line performed last year. And with a lot of the same guys, they're finally performing like I thought their true talent was. Other than this left tackle, which like virtually everything Genty did to blow up last week was right behind him. And the backup is horrible. So I don't know what that can be worth. I've tried. There's like some weird injuries this week to do math on. Like we'll get to it, but Iowa State, if you don't know, has like one of the best kickers in the country. He's out, and I go through the math when we get there. But there's a world where Indy's positive, and maybe a likely world. And if they're much more than a 1, Vegas without that tackle you could start pricing them probably down around -5. And if that's what this is I forget if Vegas is 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. body clock for this game, but there'd be real enough home to like probably with this total be able to make this like not 8, but maybe you could make it 7.5, which would mean 7 should be 15, meaning you get like an 8-cent edge. You get like a 13-cent edge at Pinnacle. I don't think that, but if you had that argument and you need sucker favorites, I think there's worse. Anyways, here's my first bet. 470 Philadelphia Eagles -3.5 flat. I'll track it as. This whole like hysteria around the Eagles sucking is kind of blowing my mind. This team hasn't spent one day of the last year and a half as rated anything below a +5 power rating in anybody in the market. Every single game they've played, and they haven't looked like worse than that in basically any game they've played. They just had, I think they've won like 18 games in a row. They just had maybe one of the most impressive Super Bowl performances in the history of the sport. They clearly have the most like biggest, fastest, strongest players in the NFL. I'm beyond stunned at how poorly people get how elite Jalen Hurts is. And they just haven't been less than a +5 ever. And even if you hate them, like, and this is a bad Eagles team, which maybe it is, they're still a 5. And in my opinion, the price is down here with arguable questionability with Carter and Johnson, which after fully in practice yesterday, I think everybody is starting to think there's no chance they miss. And if that's the case, like Denver, look, clearly I was against them 2 weeks ago, but the Chargers did, I thought, kick the despite needing some end game luck, kick the shit out of them. They haven't really been rated as much more than a 1. I mean, just go like Philly was just 3.5 on the road at Tampa. I get it, quite injured Tampa, and people are freaking out. Like they covered beyond deserve to cover, took a safety at the end. There were 2 psycho 70-yard Tampa touchdowns. They made 2 60-yard kicks. Like Philly, I don't know. Maybe everyone just like owns AJ Brown in fantasy and is freaking out because he's not scoring. Like I don't know what they're doing wrong. The games look dominant to me. I think they didn't cover against Dallas. I know they didn't deserve the LA cover, but like this was the price, for example, at home against the Rams. I know they didn't deserve to cover, but like obviously the Rams lay something over Denver on neutral. So Yeah, I mean, this price hasn't been between these teams, this price ever since Bo Nix has existed. I mean, I don't try to long bottoms, but if they're there and I think the price is wrong, I'm down. Yeah, on a short week on 10 a.m. or I guess Denver's probably 11 a.m. body clock. I mean, that's got to be at least 2 for home. Philly's also, I think there's some signal in this. Some of these like outlier teams like Baltimore, Philly, like these teams with just like crazy amount of blue chip players who just play a different type of football have outperformed in inter-conference games. I actually don't think that's that random with how rare what this is and what Denver sees. But yeah, Denver played on the road like 2 real teams last year, basically. At Baltimore, taking 8 or 9, got destroyed by 30 in the playoffs at Buffalo, which like these are just like teams comparably power rated to Philly right now. Like at Buffalo last year, I believe the game was 8, got destroyed, never had a chance. Yeah, I get it. It's a defensive game, low total, but what do I make it? Like I would never make Philly worse than a 5. I kind of still think they're better than that, and I'd never make Denver better than a 1. And there's real enough home here. I mean, I'll bow down to the market. I'm not going to say it's 6, but if it should be 5.5, then 3.5 minus 110. If it should be 5, then 3.5 minus 110. 3 should be minus 120. I mean, we had like a 10-cent edge there. And if it should be 5.5, then it should be like minus 125. I mean, there's like a 15-cent edge at 3.5 minus 110. Yeah, I don't know. The number basically just makes no sense to me. Pass. I have a bet here too, honestly, and like these are the games I bet with quarterback stuff. So I think 474 Baltimore Houston under 41 minus 110. I'll track it as is strong. To me, I mean these Houston games are just it's like the most under. Sorry, the chef's cooking stuff. 1 second. I mean, no Houston game has even sniffed 40 points yet. There's one that landed 39 with Tampa Bay with 2 conceded touchdowns in the last 5 minutes. But and I know some of the teams they've played, but like even seeing Jacksonville last week, like this is the most like under funnel fuel football team ever. And I totally understand how Baltimore's looked. I get all the injuries, but my understanding is Wiggins is highly probable and he's an elbow. So like it's not like a high ankle where I'm worried he can't stay in phase with Collins or whatever. I'm not currently expecting Hamilton to play. Obviously, no Roquan Smith. Everyone knows Humphrey. That's all there. But I am expecting Van Noy back. And I'm fully expecting Travis Jones, who's a big player on the D-line, to play. So, look, they've played 3 absolute machines, like probably the 3 biggest machines in football for scoring. With the Bills, which honestly, I actually don't even think the defense played that poorly in the Bills game. It was just psycho Superman stuff from Allen at the end. I mean, and the way the game funneled with their offense. Detroit, who's a machine scoring on everybody, and I know these injuries suck, and I've definitely downgraded them, but like to start supporting this price with how bad I think Rush is and what the baseline total of a Houston Texans game should be against the most average like total team in NFL, would need this to be like arguably the worst defense in the NFL, which might be, I know people are expecting that. And I know this personnel, all the injuries is like really piling up, but Houston had 6 points through 3 quarters against the Titans. So, I mean, if they can approximate something of the Titans defense, I think this is really good. What should it be? I can't make any Houston total starting with a 4 unless like one of 10 really special offenses are involved. And I'm really low on Cooper Rush. So, the side, I don't think you're stealing on anything here. I mean, if you're wanting to like bet against Cooper Rush, which I am, and I think under is the way better way to do it. I mean, you'd have to start dragging Baltimore as a power rating down to like, I mean, Houston was just power rated as like a -2 last week, which is kind of what I think they are. And I mean, I know they won 26-0, but like arguably weren't the right side. I mean, Tennessee missed 2 field goals. And they had 6 points through 3 quarters. So that game could have been a lot more competitive. I'm not convinced like that game should be 10 now, certainly. So maybe it should have been 7.5. But yeah, like maybe Houston's at -1.5 now, bottomed out, and using Woody Marks now. I mean, to have this be like really an edge, because if you're gonna lay like 2, you probably want to make this like 2.5 juice or 3. Like, I mean, you're probably needing to consider Baltimore with the home here as like basically worse than the Giants and Saint, like a -6, which they might be, but they still have some stuff there. And I know Rush is horrible, but even if you take like full maxed out healthy Baltimore's game, power is like a +7. So say Lamar is worth 6 points over an average quarterback, because I do, and say Rush is 2 points below an average quarterback, because I do. That's still only getting them to like a -1 or something, maybe a -2. And take off a couple points for Matabuke, Roquan, Humphrey, all that, like take 2 more points, but they're still like a -3, to where if I had conviction that honestly this game's more like pick. I'm not actually like remotely convicted in that, and I do think Rush is horrible. I would never even really consider Baltimore. But yeah, if that should be 39, under 41 would be I forget all the math on these memorized, but I think it's like -130. So do I think some obvious 20-cent edge here is available on an NFL total 2 days before the game, and I'm the only genius in the world who can see it? No. But, you know, it's probably somewhere between 110 and 130. That's my opinion. And then I have one more in NFL, which is 476 Arizona, Tennessee, under 42, -110. Basically, it took me 4 weeks. I'm not super regretful that I was this patient with it. I probably should have stepped in last week, as you probably heard me like want to on the call last week. But I'm pretty confident now. I think the huge thing actually is this play caller, who I think is horrendous. I went back and watched some. He, if you don't know, is the guy who came in and called plays after Josh McDaniels was fired on the Raiders 2 years ago with that Aiden O'Connell team. And I don't think he understands football at all, with like early passing on early downs, like not running on second and 10, like just obvious low hanging fruit of like stuff that's inarguable in analytics from 5 years ago is like completely missing with this guy. But just everything about Ward's habits, how he's handling pressure, how he's seeing coverages, how he's understanding what is and isn't open, everything about how he sees the sport of football is, to me, not even like remotely functional. And I know they scored points in 2 of their games. I'm really quite confident we're getting to like the 2023 Bryce Young Panthers range of price, where I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure if you go look on those games, you would have never lost if you bet against and under on every Bryce Young game in that season, and you have gone 2-0 in most and usually 1-1. But there's almost always like a really strong side to it, and it's just, are you against them or under in the game? And basically, given the state of Arizona's offense, I think this is strong. What should it be? I honestly think 40 is still better than 41, which would, I'm pretty confident. I forget the math is all memorized, but I think 41 -110 would still be decent. Yeah, and then that's before factor in like Ward has never seen anything like this Arizona defense in his life with what they do with like these 3 safety structures. I don't know how to price these running back stuff. Like it would seem logical to me that Connor, which was such a heart and soul of the way they do things, and now Benson, which is like the only stylistic match for that they had on the roster, would start to mean something. Am I fearful this becomes like a super pass happy team to replace the run game? Not really, just with how likely they are to not be able to like blow this game up. Tennessee, Simmons is still playing like all world, one of the best players on the planet himself. They have actually pretty good safety play. And I've actually, despite these results, I've seen actually 0 quit from Tennessee. I know that's been narratives. I know the Colts said like they looked flat or whatever. I actually see none of that. That'd be wild to me in October and September of an NFL season. They just can't score and they keep getting put in bad positions. But I mean, yeah, I kind of think it should be 40, which would make under 42 -110. I think, again, something between 25 and 30. Again, do I think I'm the only genius in the world who can see a 15, 20-cent edge on an NFL game right now? No, but I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. And outside of 18 horrible bets this year, the track record has suggested I'm not awful at finding those. College, Pass. I mean, if you don't, I guess just because if people use this call as like recap me on anything relevant in case I want to bet $5 on everything. Charlotte quarterback's out for the year. Harrell, he's not really worth anything. Loftus is horrendous as well. He was a walk-on freshman at Duke, but he's functioned. Like I think they beat North Carolina on the field that year he started playing. He's no good at all, but you got to start dragging USF even with the tempo, and they do score a little, but this guy's not like James Franklin where he's like, if this were 41-14, you'd still need more with 3 minutes left. This guy's not like that. Like he keeps scoring just by the nature of the offense. Will do the Brile stuff and go fast through most of the fourth quarter, but he's not. I haven't seen Golish be obviously aware of the number and like go out of his way to be a dickhead about it with like 3 minutes left, like Franklin does. And you would need that to even think about this price. I'm shocked they got this number right. I thought for sure I was going to bet Delaware as a dog, but it's the perfect number. I've been saying this guy's name the whole year. This guy's amazing. The number 19, the receiver on Delaware. I mean, he destroyed FIU. I mean, this guy's like really, I don't know why he's there, but he's one of the best players in CUSA. I think Delaware is a fraction better team. And honestly, it's a pretty big game for them tonight. I mean, this is like their standalone primetime night. Yet Delaware does not play in these. So that might be a big game for them. But there's no way to really think about this price because to make it 3, you'd need like real conviction on the spot and that they are better. And, we haven't seen them play a team really like Western Kentucky yet. UConn's very much on offense, like outside zone, like kind of pro style. FIU, I guess, on defense is somewhat similar, but we haven't seen them face like a Western Kentucky type offense. So San Jose pretty thoroughly outplayed Stanford, then missed 2 chip shot kicks and blew up at the end. There's no secrets in 2025. They nailed this total. I thought we might have room to bet over. San Jose, their quarterback, as things progress, and we'll get to CMU in a bit, in contextualizing that, I don't think I was way off on this quarterback or offense. I think this quarterback actually is playing at a really high level. I think the offensive coordinator is great. They don't have a semblance of an offensive line, like at all. They don't have a chance to really run the ball against anybody. And I love coaches like this who don't even like pretend to try and keep running when they're physically incapable of it and just basically throw every play, which is what they did against Stanford. It's probably what they're going to have to do against New Mexico. But that's more than priced in and factored with the total. New Mexico just came off like a pretty huge win in that New Mexico State game, which I guess aged like slightly, last night had a lot to do with Sam Houston, but there's that receiver for New Mexico State's real. Like there's a world where that's like a mediocre enough CUSA team where killing them, and they didn't have to. I mean, they had to come back to do it, where New Mexico killing them meant a little. I actually kind of think they're fractionally better team. It's just it's a hard home to price, and especially after that spot. I lean New Mexico, but it's nothing strong. I can't even say I lean over at this price. I thought for sure it'd be like 56-ish and there'd be something, but no. I'm really close to still tracking BYU at 20, but it's just not worth it. If you've been living under a rock, West Virginia's starting their 5th string quarterback, who's a freshman named Wilkins. He was in for both of their touchdown drives last week. I think if people haven't watched the video, they might assume that he like ignited something or something. I don't know. He is, to be fair, I'll admit right away, he's very athletic and fast. He can clearly run. And I'm expecting Ty Edwards back, which I think is on here. Yeah, so that second running back, well, both running backs, I guess, matter a little. But that Ty Edwards guy is the guy who basically won them the Pittsburgh game. I think he's relevant. But this quarterback, I mean, the touchdown he threw was like, you should go watch it. I mean, it's like a 20-mile-an-hour ephus that, as you might know if you watch it, like Utah only plays man coverage or as much as anybody in the country and just misplayed the ball. And, they were up 48. They didn't really care. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident he's horrible. I'm starting to think if West Virginia was fully healthy and nothing ever happened to them, they probably were going to be slightly negative already. I mean, it's kind of where the program's been in year 0. It's not like some crazy guess to say that. Even when looking like when they were healthy and played at Ohio, like Ohio was clearly negative and they were clearly the worst team. I don't think that's some bold claim. So yeah, I mean, if 100% fully healthy, they're like probably we're going to be a -3 this year. Get to the fifth string quarterback. I mean, I'm not in love with Marshall or however you pronounce it, but I mean, Henderson's played real football, I think, in the SEC a couple times, and definitely with Fresno. Like, it's hard for me to make that big of a gap worth less than like 4 or 5 points, and then you take in the best receiver, best running back, the O-line stuff, everything else going on. I think the penalty off that baseline makes sense to make it like to where you're kind of calling West Virginia in the current state as just how good are they is like in the -10 range and like probably not better than that. So how good's BYU? I mean, the ECU games aged amazing. They very arguably were the right side last week. I mean, they missed a blatant intentional grounding from Colorado at halftime that should have let them have an untimed field goal attempt. They could have kicked a field goal at the end. The first Colorado touchdown missed like a blatant illegal formation. I thought BYU played really well, and week by week they're letting Bachmeier actually like do more and more. And I just think those are the most underrated. These are probably my two most underrated defensive coordinators in the country. And I do lean under, but we've gotten beat to it there too. So why is it not good enough to lay? I mean, BYU is probably like slightly better than a 10, definitely worse than 15. Let's call them 12.5. Let's call West Virginia like a -10. And there's real home. I mean, this is a short week crossing the country up at elevation. Like, if the total was normal, if BYU cared, if BYU wasn't such a ball control, clock control team, say the total was in the 50s, I'd be laying this. But given the way this game's likely to go, there's too many worlds where, 31-13 or whatever happens, and there's not enough meat on the bone. But 19.5 was probably enough. If you laid that, I'd keep it for sure. And if you had anything under any number better than what it is currently, I'd keep it too. Nothing. There's some Colorado State injuries. Are they here? Wow. You guys are really good with the injuries. Yeah, everything relevance there. Yeah, just leave it alone. Stupid game. So another stupid game. Impossible for me to price. All right, here's a bet. I think 318 Navy -12.5 -110. I'll track it as is in the caliber of what I've thought all of these are, around 55%. I'll explain that bit in a bit. So not past posting, I just think it's relevant information. This, if you watched these videos with me last year, was one of my favorite games of the year. It was one of my bigger bets, was Navy, I think -9.5, maybe -10 at Air Force last year. And I got decent opposition, not to where it closed like lower than where I bet it, but it came back and closed where I bet it. And the people against me are definitely winners. They bet bigger than me, like definitely favorites to win in the long run. But just so you're aware, like there's context on that. I mean, clearly I love Navy. My personal opinion, basically, they're laying 14.5 against Rice last week in a game that was much likelier to play tighter because of the total and the way Rice plays. I'm quite confident Rice is a favorite over Air Force on neutral. Not more than 3, but something between 1 and 3 points better than Air Force. And Navy, I just fully think was the right side last week. I mean, they had crazy run out with missed kicks and just controlled the game from the start and let it bleed away, and probably knew this game, which is one of their 2 biggest games of the year, was happening. So I think Navy's great. I think Navy easily lays over Boise. Again, not like 7 points, but 3. And Boise was this price on the road at Air Force and covered. Or I think it landed 12. But yeah, if you missed it, like Air Force's secondary is just like beyond a complete joke. Hawaii could do literally whatever they wanted. Basically every team, not basically, literally all 3 FBS teams they've played have been able to. I think Navy's quarterback is the best option quarterback I've seen since Keenan Reynolds. I think this is the best Navy team since that era. I've got Navy confidently rated as much better than a +7, maybe slightly worse than a +10. Call them like an 8 or a 9. I've got Air Force down around like probably worse than San Jose, like honestly in the range of like a -7 and -10. And there's real home crossing the country, and these teams score touchdowns at the end in these games. Like these big number Service Academy games on the sides have played true. Like there's no shrinking or compressing of the sides. And this one's properly factored the total. I thought the total might come 48. It might lean over just as much, but they nailed the total here. But yeah, if you didn't know, Air Force has basically stolen Navy's offense or lots of their concepts this year. I don't think teams have been prepared for it. There's no team, obviously, in the country better prepared for that than the team that's faced it every single day in Navy. And I just think they have way better players and coaches. I think Navy has one of the 5 best offensive coordinators in the sport. And yeah, they've been invited to run the ball more than expected, Navy, so far through the season. I wouldn't be predicting that in this game, and I think that they could, have one of these big offensive games that they've done a lot the last 2 years. Nothing. I mean, as resident Coastal hater number 1, I will say this is getting like fully priced in now because they actually are getting healthier. Now off a bye to be this price is like crazy. I mean, you'd have to start calling Old Dom like pick or favored to JMU to even think this is the right price. I'm not betting $1 on Coastal, but Old Dom is very likely still a negative team, like, barely, but like negative something. I mean, that's not like some great result last week. I know they missed kicks. I know arguably they're the right side against the number, but that result, and I know there's a what's the word? Typhoon? Man, I'm all over the place. What's it called when it's raining a lot? Starts with a T. Whatever. There's a bunch of rain. But that was with the Liberty backups. I mean, that's not even close to a good game. I know it was one real successful, big, explosive play for Liberty, but that's not great. So, you need to start calling Coastal like one of the worst Sunbelt teams ever, frankly, to think about laying it for sure, to even just support this price. And, I think everything's priced in at this point, more than, frankly, because they are playing better with this guy instead of MJ Morris. Nothing. I won't waste time. Quickly, UTSA, regardless of power rating, I think the price is like pretty perfect. They are a lot less built to kill teams than they have in the past with like some of these Frank Harris teams, in terms of like stopping backdoors and running in known run with leads. They're not really built to be a good favorite at all, in my opinion, as evidenced by the Colorado State game, which was like actually like kind of a pretty bad game for them. Temple's off a bye. I kind of lean dog, to be honest, but there's nothing to think about until it's 7. Nothing. Sorry, my dog just needs to get out. Fully expecting Jackson to play. That was wild. I set up to Polish middle at the halftime. That would have been insanely tilting. I thought he was out for sure. If you missed it, he separated his shoulder or something, came back in. I don't know what's wrong with Cam Fancher. My understanding, it's not why I liked UCF last week, but my understanding was Cam Fancher was available in emergency against North Carolina and certainly available fully last week, but they didn't. They went to the Ja'Cory Brown, like the running back, quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, I'm pricing Kansas pretty close to a 10. I'm probably dragging UCF down to like a 2. I guess I could lean Kansas, but I don't think it's anything strong. And, this game, so the kicker thing to me might actually be worth a point, especially in a game that's priced pick. Say there's like 3 field goal attempts a game for the team. Might be a little less, but say Conradi is going to be in, obviously very like tons of very 20-yard gimmies are easy for both, and 50 yards are, a big swing. I'll call Conradi, the Iowa State kicker, like 90%. I don't know. That's probably rounding up, but I'm also probably rounding up to call the backup 80%. Three field goals mean the EV of made field goals is 2.7 with Conradi and 2.4 with the other kid. A field goal is worth 3 points. There's a gap of 0.3 field goals, which is 3 points. That's like 0.9 points. And it's probably actually worth like factoring in, I think. That said, I think it is. God, these dogs are annoying. Hey, man. You want to come on the street? What's wrong? You good? ¿Qué pasó? Yeah, so look, this game's basically like a intramural scrimmage or intra-squad scrimmage with the defenses. It's completely the same defensive concepts. I will say things are a little different from last year. I think Iowa State was laying 8 in this game and covered like 17 or something, or landed 17, covered by 10-ish. Obviously, team has changed. Cincinnati's a pretty different on both sides of the ball roster. Quarterback's playing as good as he has in his career. And like I said, like not to be salty about Arizona, but like this price is kind of suggesting, and the market hasn't and probably shouldn't have upgraded Iowa State. So yeah, I do actually lean Iowa State, but to get to bet it, I mean, I'm going to need to basically know they can't be less than 3 points better, which is too big of a claim for me. Virginia, I think I've talked about this before, but Louisville's defensive line is like shocking. Like this is not a Jeff Brom team at all. It's kind of cool. Their defensive line is like super dominant. Moss has not impressed me at all. I kind of think Virginia has the better quarterback. Virginia more than 7 was pretty interesting. I don't think there's anything to do here. I love both quarterbacks. Everything's priced into me. If you missed it, there's a pretty big left tackle injury on what? Yeah. My understanding is he's doubtful. I kind of think that matters. Maryland has been getting a pass rush with 4. They have pretty legit kids, honestly, everywhere. They have a unbelievable DB. I'm not great with names yet. It might be one of these 2 names. I want to say it's 27. I'm pretty sure it's number 27 is the really good Maryland corner. But they have actually like a pretty impressive roster, but still like they're, clearly still, I think, in the single digits, and that Wisconsin win had everything to do with Wisconsin. So if they're up around like a 5 to 7 now, UW is probably in the range of a 15, meaning with very real home. Like I'd probably like these cross country road trips have just been crazy. I'd probably do like a real 4 points here, 3.5. Maybe I could make this like 6.5, but there's nothing strong or anything stealing or anything worth doing, especially with the injuries. Fully expecting O'Neal has been taking all the reps this week. I'm not sure Edwards will play again this year. Maybe he wants another year of eligibility. I don't know the state of things with this coach. I don't get the best information from Wisconsin. Obviously, you'll get infinite speculation, like he's a dead man walking. These like quit teams with coach situations like that, I'm pretty obsessed with, but I'm not going to, despite how ugly that Maryland game was, guess that is what's happening, because I just think they played horrendous and Maryland's underrated. And obviously lots of things went Maryland's way in that game too. So if they're down around a 0 with a total this low, this price is probably fine. And that's kind of what I think they are. Normally, if I didn't have the information I do from Clemson, I would just like easily be betting Clemson. I wish I could like more comfortably explain what I'm hearing from Clemson. It's nothing like groundbreaking. What can I say? It's just like it's stuff that I don't expect to exist next year. It's kind of like cultural stuff that it just makes them almost impossible to bet for me right now. Not look, there's a price for everything. Like I would lay 10, obviously, not really fucking saying news at the day before the game saying I'd love to take 4 points better of a ACC spread. What an insightful comment. But I would. But what I'm hearing from Clemson is like beyond damaging enough to like even think about this price. But if everything was normal and kosher, what's the roster? Obviously, they started the year around a 20. Like they probably right now, obviously we're overrated there, but they're probably still around a 15. And UNC is clearly negative something, like arguably down around -7. So even with a lower total, like would this be close to 20 on neutral, I'd still be wanting to make this just on numbers and team quality. It's probably like 16.5 plus, but there's 10,000 better football teams to bet on than Clemson right now. Nothing. I won't waste time. Won't waste time. I see a bet here. So I'll track this. I'll track this as 3-4-3 Central Michigan -7 -115. I know things are in between, but like Chris is 704. Like there's 705 here. That looks fair to me. Like 715 is pretty painted. I think that's more than a fair number to track on. 7.5 thing if you don't know. So I don't have the Finley news. I can just tell you this. It's two. People are talking about lower body injury last week. It's a ribs injury against UAB, and then in the third quarter against Tulane, I think it's like a high ankle sprain. He didn't play last week, obviously, or if you don't know, now you do. And Akron couldn't gain a yard and got utterly destroyed by a pretty down Toledo team this year. I think CMU is really underrated, and I kind of wish I caught on more. It got a little lost after getting destroyed by Pitt, but they actually were in that Pitt game longer than the final suggested, and then completely demolished by Michigan. But I wish I paid more attention. They were probably a really good bet last week. They raced out to 21-0 or 21-3, then just sat on the ball. But they can completely run and don't run. They are a huge MAC team. I know EMU is small, but even going back to how they dominated in the trenches against San Jose, this is a really big, like senior, old, large MAC team that can run in known running downs. They have like probably my favorite 2-quarterback system in college football. Here's my prices with and without Finley. Fully healthy Finley, Akron, I think you're being kind to call a -23. Gimpy Finley, -24, -25 with Johnson Jr. I think that's the guy's name. Is he on here? Yeah, John. I think it's like Michael Johnson Jr. What are they with him? I mean, by the way, Finley's been horrible, so like you can't tank it a lot more. I'd say like 26, 27. For me, though, I think the bet's as much about Central Michigan. Like I really think, and we're gonna have to watch this in future weeks. They had like 30,000 people in the stadium. Like it's crazy. They've like completely energized things. I think this coach is really good. They somehow lost very little for this being like a complete rebuild, and like I don't think they're going to win the MAC, but like they are like I would favor them on a neutral against NIU. Like they wouldn't be in the market. They would be in the market. They'd probably be like 10 or 10.5 on a neutral versus Toledo, but I would make it less than that, and I'd probably bet them in that game. Like they would be. I mean, I would only make them like. I'm not even sure I'd make them much worse than Buffalo, if anything at all. Maybe fully healthy Miami, Ohio would be like 3 over that. Like that's like the rate. Like that, in my opinion, they're like clearly separated above the other directional Michigans. It's a super real offensive line and defensive line. Really good coaches around turnovers in both directions. I think they're really good at touchdown scoring and red zone plays with this second quarterback, and really good in short yardage. So they're just like experts with all the situational football. I could be convinced under is as good of a bet as Central Michigan. But yeah, I just think even with Finley, I'd probably make this closer to 10, and without him, 11.5. I think it's pretty solid. Nothing. I mean, despite hating Ball State, I actually kind of lean them here. I mean, this is, Ohio obviously had a $12.7 gazillion bet against them last week. They still cover, but I do think they have offensive line issues. I think all that had to do with Bowling Green, and with a new coach, Ball State should be improving by the week, and I think they are. But I also will say, the UConn cover might not mean a ton. I mean, UConn was off back-to-back overtime games and didn't clearly care about the game at all. There's a chance they're overpriced from that too. Nothing to do. This is another one under 54 and 54.5. This, which was paying this morning, I was going to have, and probably be one of my favorites. I don't think it's strong enough here to do anything with. I definitely lean under, to be clear, but if you missed it, Roberson's expected back. He was a lower body injury, so you're guessing, I guess, foot. So you're guessing on how relevant that's going to be, like how, if he's 100% or not. EMU, I don't want to act like I'm double counting the CMU game because that'd be just completely illogical to freak out in both directions. They came out pretty flat, and that does not make me like CMU less, to be clear. You can just see the physicality where they overwhelm these like bottom MAC teams. But they play like heavy boxes, one safety looks, and try and take away the run, which is all Buffalo's going to at least start to want to do. And the way the Buffalo games have been being coached and managed, it's really hard to support a total up where it was. So, yeah, I almost think like clearly Roberson's worth something to the side, but I'm not sure he's worth much to the total with how much more they run. And that kid was throwing all the time. The kid who just lost to UConn. So, yeah, that said, there's nothing to do. I'm always every week going to be dying to bet everything I can against UMass, but I can't here. Western, they have, I don't know why he's at Western Michigan, but this number, I think he's number 11. They have this edge rusher who like might be one of, if not the best in the MAC. Excuse me. Like he would start at Toledo, I think. But yeah, it's not what I'd really expect from like past. It's nothing like Tim Lester, Western Michigan teams. These are like a complete new identity. This quarterback is, I think, horrible. Both tackles are horrible. I think they've gotten away with a lot. I have no idea still how they beat Toledo. And yeah, I'm pricing Western Michigan way too low to even think about this price. Georgia State's hard to price. Obviously, they're going with TJ Finley if you missed it. Giving up 70 points is like not a good thing, but you know, they're playing like legit teams and Vanderbilt might be a machine. So if you completely threw out those games, I'd still be making State like probably a -15 and JMU, who I like, and I've leaned JMU in like most games. I'd still be making them not better than like a +3, which would make this game hard to be like even this on a neutral. And if there's any home, probably decently lean dog. Now the issue is just, like I said, giving up 70 is not really good. So, and JMU does play usually 60 minutes of football. So I kind of honestly on numbers lean dog pretty decently. It's just there's no handicap or anything I like about the game. Strong lean under. I don't think there's enough meat on the bone. Won't talk too much more. Waste of time. This is a huge rivalry game. If you didn't know, it's both teams' biggest game of the year for regular season. Troy's quarterback obviously came in and played a lot better in the second half against Buffalo. I'm still fairly confident he's horrible. They don't have much of a passing game. I saw this total come up today. I'm not going to buck it, but I strongly lean against that move. I pretty strongly lean under. This would have been like high on the list of stuff that almost made it. How these games have been managed and coached, and it's been a lot of the same guys, have played way under. Like there is one shootout where the teams were built that way, I think in 2021, but this series has been like way overpriced in totals with how physical they play this, especially the way Troy wants to play, and how these Troy games have been playing lately. So, yeah, I think South Alabama's offensive line's horrible. I still don't like the quarterback. But I'm going to respect the move this morning and leave it alone. But I guess I might even barely lean Troy. I mean, these South Alabama games do not look great, but yeah, lean under. Nothing. It looks like there's going to be weather here, wind in this game, just to be aware of. But I think it's priced in, more than priced in. You can see the move. All right, I think there's a bet here. I will track this as 362 NIU Miami under 39 -110. That looks more than fair. It's basically everywhere. Like 38. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I completely understand why every computer model in the world is going to disagree with me. It's a psycho total for anything other than like Iowa State or but the way both of these coaches manage both of these and how NIU is forced to right now is really difficult for me to make this more than 37. So I think this is all coaching game management stuff as being priced in as 0. And this is almost like the correct computer number. Maybe 40 is like the correct computer number without knowing the interaction of how these teams are going to be together. So I actually can't even tell you if Finn's playing. I'm not sure I'd care. The quarterback came in and almost nothing changed. They arguably improved, and Finn's going to run more, and it's a leg injury. So, if he plays, I'm not expecting high-level quarterback play at all from this team. both teams have like 8 new starters on offense. It's like 7th grade stuff of how you would analyze how the offenses and defenses both played this year. For me, what I think is just missing is how beyond happy both of these coaches are to manage this as a 8 possession each, 17-13 MAC game, as they have often with one another. The MAC is like probably where I know the most about coach interactions, and as we got that NIU one, obviously is a way different price, but I think there's room there. Won't waste time. I don't know. I mean, Penn State's just been an amazing gambling team to me, and like I haven't lost on anything yet with them. And I leaned to Oregon, I think, pretty correctly last week. I just think they're easy to rate as what they are, and then you just adjust what the game is to how it plays, like what the number plays as, and they've just been better than a 20, clearly worse than a 25 for a very, very long time. They can't break out of that range in any direction. They look kind of maybe towards the lower end of that range this year, just with personnel. But yeah, I mean, UCLA is clearly negative, and these are clearly the games he cares in, and off a loss would probably be likely to want to. I struggle with thinking they're good enough because, quite arguably, and I hate the guy, but like quite arguably, UCLA has the better quarterback. And it's not like they weren't trying to cover in the first 3. They were. I mean, that's one thing I never understood is people saying like they were hiding stuff or like waiting to come out for that game. It's James fucking Frank. Have you ever watched one of this guy's games and you're like, he's dying to cover any game he can? And it was probably a very bad sign that they could not cover in any of those 3, let alone the majority of them. So hindsight's 2020. Oregon's probably stronger than I gave it credit for. Nothing to do. I don't have anything here, but I will say if you're one of these speculators on Florida rolling over, my opinion is this price is pricing in 0 of that. Like this, even with like a 3.5, 4-point home, which I'd be using, this price, I'd still be keeping Texas up around 23. And just on the goodness of football, probably be making Florida around 13, 14. And so the game would be playing pretty true to this if both teams came with 100% fastball efforts. Obviously, I know there's tons of speculation on Florida losing the coach and like kind of throwing in on the year, and maybe interactions around like how much they can or can't play from behind. But if you're into that stuff, I guess Texas could be cheap. I just don't have that information, and I don't like gambling on guesses. Nothing. I won't waste time. I will say I'm not doing anything, but I will say USC was 20.5 on the road at Purdue. Looked like it closed efficient. Last week did not look like it closed efficient. USC, Illinois, like I'm not sure more than 3 points separates those teams. Maybe USC 4 on neutral, but like that would mean that game should be like with all that home, like USC 1, 2, something like that. That's kind of how that game looked to me. Honestly, plenty went against Illinois in that game. So, yeah, if that's what separates them and the USC price looked efficient, this would play up, and it's a rivalry game I know they care about. So, I have nothing to do with the way Odom's just a very frustrating defense to cover against, but I could only bet Illinois. Nothing. I think they nailed it. I won't waste time. Very, very strong lean Rice. There's nothing to do unless 4 was painted. Basically, FAU. So if you miss FAU's left tackle is out last week, he's expected back. Is that on here? It's actually not. You missed guy. You guys missed one. Oh no, never mind. It's the first fucking one. I'm an idiot. That's my bad. Nonar is the guy. Yeah, nothing to do. Houston. I'm dying to bet Texas Tech every game, but Houston's an effort to cover again. And honestly, they have really, really legitimate corners. Look, being in a 4-quarter battle and probably not even deserving to win with special team stuff against Oregon State obviously looks atrocious, but that is a unbelievably stupid game for them to have to go play in the middle of the season before Big 12 stuff. To go play in Corvallis, that means nothing. Like, it's just an obscenely stupid game. Like, I'm hesitant to crush them. I'm not a Wigman guy at all, but I mean, I'd pretty confidently be having Texas Tech around 20. If you remember, brought up last week, like Dampier did not play healthy in the game. I'm fully expecting Morton fully healthy here for Texas Tech. If that's what they are, probably Houston's something around 5. I mean, we saw what they closed against Colorado, saw what they closed in all these games. Like that's where they are. Maybe if you like them, they're 7. Wouldn't be using Monster home, but with the total, the slight shading under makes sense to me. I don't think there's anything to do. So TCU, there's a pretty big one. This guy, where is he? So that receiver, Eric McAllister, I think is worth at least a point. Maybe 15 cents. I think he's huge. Like they went to complete shit when he got hurt in the Arizona State game. Barnes has been and he just hasn't practiced. So like I'm considering him more doubtful than questionable. Barnes, the running back, has been at practice in a non-contact jersey. The way Dykes was talking about him sounded more optimistic. I think both matter, but McAllister matters like decently more. I think TCU's offensive line is super, super faulty. Like very. I think their defense is extremely underrated. I really like Andy Avalos. And yeah, I'd be like close to the mark. Like I lean Arizona State in that game for no reason of thinking Arizona State's clearly the better team, but just better at winning. With how they coach and manage these things, I think Dillingham's like phenomenal. I might be downgrading slightly just on goodness of football in the rosters, both teams, to where TCU I'd probably start having down like around a 13. I'd probably keeping Colorado barely above a 0, if at all. There'd be real enough home here and with their pace where you can make it play up, but McAllister being out would probably make this price perfect. So if I'm wrong and he's in, I think it's like fractionally cheap if you get minus 110, but there's a lot better games to bet. So I'm quite confident what Kansas State will intend to do. Whether it will succeed is debatable, and obviously I'd bet $1 gazillion if I knew for sure what would happen. But they're going to absolutely want to control the clock. I mean, the guys talked about it all week. They're going to want to completely control the clock. They do not want Baylor to get 80 plays off like Spavital would love to. That's how Baylor's been playing in these games. Both teams are expecting to run a lot of plays, but with the amount of running clock that's likely to happen when Kansas State has it, I think the total's been like pretty well sorted out. I will say Kansas State started using this like Tim Tebow sounds so ridiculous to say this, like I guess Wildcat-ish pack, like 2 quarterback package with this running quarterback that's probably going to help at the goal line. I probably underestimated the importance of Dylan Edwards going into that game last week. They've probably have bottomed out, but they did hit like a disgustingly bad lull in that game where they almost blew the second half for us. So, yeah, I don't really think a lot actually separates these teams. Even at this shitty late number, I'd probably barely lean Kansas State, but I would need probably not even 6 to think about it, more like 6.5. Army is difficult to price. I don't know about these quarterbacks. I want to sort of just delete the ECU game. That was like a 4 days, which I think I brought this up last week. Somehow that subset has not played down. I have no earthly idea how, but that was on 4 days rest against, I believe, a multi-overtime game against North Texas in an emotional loss. I think that was like an impossible game for Army to play last week. I'm 99% sure that was last week. If you ignore that, maybe they're cheap. I don't know. I think they're probably, I mean, obviously they're only 7 on the road to UAB. They're obviously negative. But if they're only like a -3, this is getting cheap. In my head, it's hard for going in the preseason and everything, what Army's ranges could be. That'd be on the lower end. But, enough of the results add up like this, you probably need to keep them at that number, if not lower, and I'm going to leave it alone. But decently lean Army. Should have bet the Syracuse under last week. I have that stadium nailed too. There's I won't explain what it is, but there's a big edge with that stadium. I'm an idiot. God, I've been bad. But the whole world found out how bad the backup is, and it's priced in. And SMU, I mean, Jennings, there's no way I'm thinking about betting on Jennings until I see one good game from him. Like, it's been really bad, the decision making. Like, really bad. Like, I don't know what's going on. There's also, like, moderate to high discussion around the SMU coach looking at UCLA and Arkansas. And if 2% of that gets out and there's that, like, semblance of a pulse of, like, quit or lay down, like I've just seen that way too many times to want to be looking at SMU. So I sort of lean UConn decently. I don't think it's great. I'm not betting it. It's two things. It's match. I mean, it's three things. It's number, matchup, and this is like a big like cancer awareness game for UConn. I know Mora cares a lot about that, and usually gets them too. So I mean, they both played Delaware back-to-back weeks. UConn was 9.5 to 10 on the road and lost, but I'm not sure that game was super poorly priced. Like they would for sure still be like 7.5 plus on the road if it were played again, which would mean they're on the order of 9 over Delaware. And Delaware was a 5.5 point dog on the road to FIU. And the game, I know a lot went Delaware's way in that game, but the game looked like it could not be a lot more than pick, and definitely not pick on a neutral. So if they're equal, like the market was, and the games themselves was kind of just telling us, like, UConn's probably at least this number on neutral over FIU. There's obviously real home, and this is a pretty stupid game for FIU to have to go play against an independent team the week before CUSA starts off this bye week. Matchup things, FIU's defense, they do have 2 nose tackles, but everywhere else on the defense is really small. They're twitchy, they're fast, but they're really small. If you don't know, UConn's entire offense is based on stretch, like outside zone. They're a lot like Missouri. And I think personnel-wise, FIU's defense is really ill-equipped to handle that and just what the game is. So it's too much guessing and gambling. It's not stealing. FIU is not this like dead team that can't play, but there are certain things that I think favor UConn more than the price suggests right now. I'll just go through the mat. Like the whole country and world and marketplace is going to be discussing, is Notre Dame now in kick the shit out of everybody mode for style points? Probably. Probably, but I still need to know how good the teams are. And so, like, you know, I don't think there's much of a way you can make this year's team like close to the rating of the team that beat Penn State or lost to Ohio State last year, which is probably around 23, 24. So are they 2.5 to that team? Is it 3-point dot? I mean, you know, they're probably in the range of like a 21-ish power rating. Boise's clearly positive, but, you know, not a lot more than a 5. And this game would be probably playing in normal conditions a lot closer to like 18.5 if there wasn't style points, kick the shit out of everybody mode priced in. And my best guess is all that could be worth is in this number right now, and there's nothing to do. I'd never dream of betting on Boise, but if you're one of these people guessing that Notre Dame is in kick the shit out of everybody mode, unless that's worth a full touchdown, there's nothing for you to do on this specific one. Clearly there was last week, but you know, I need to see more because there's a whole world where that was Arkansas laying down. I know that Oklahoma really likes this backup quarterback. It likely always was going to be like meaningless to the number in this game. Kent has a winnable game coming up next. I think they're pretty into beating UMass because, you know, not to front run myself, but they should be really pretty real favorites in the UMass game. And are unlikely to want to risk getting hurt at all and probably not run to Shields. Complete guessing, but this is such a stupid game for them to have to play. And Venables is clearly going to want to shut out. So I actually kind of don't hate under, but I need 54 flat to even start thinking about it. Priced out, the world knows how good A&M is. I mean, Mississippi State's covered every game. Like they're good, legit, improving SEC team. And like I said, like I'm not trying to be salty about last week, but this is saying we probably had 4 or 5 points the best of it on A&M last week, and we don't have anything this week. Completely Wyoming's game, but I think it's at least priced in. I mean, this team was in a war with Akron for 4 quarters. I know they won by 10, but it was a complete war for 4 quarters. Yeah, they're still easily in the low negative teens, and he's probably in the mid negative teens. And I guess if you want to call this some 3-point home field at elevation, you could make it 3 or slightly less and probably still see some meat on the bone with Wyoming. I get it. There's supposed to be some rain, definitely wind. It's completely their game. UNLV is the biggest scam on the planet. I totally get it. But I think all that's at least priced in, to be honest. And then nothing on either of these. So I'll recap from the top. Nothing here. I like Navy minus 12.5, minus 110. It'll be tracked as. Central Michigan minus 7, minus $1.15. NIU Miami O under 39. Eagles minus 3.5 flat. Baltimore under 41, minus 110, 99% sure it was. And then Arizona under 42, minus 110. Yeah, let's hope the results are a lot better. These are still, even when I skip a bunch, these are still more than an hour. Yeah, thanks for listening this long. Again, I feel like shit about the results. I mean, I don't know what to say. Obviously, I've been pretty open about why I'm doing this. I think it's going to help me if I do this. Clearly, it's had not that effect, but the exact polar opposite, where most likely people could only watch this and think I'm more of a bumbling idiot than they could have ever imagined, and they're going to become billionaires fading these moves. Yeah, not fun. But ultimately, there really is just no avoiding this. And honestly, I don't even think I brought this up. I was going to talk about this actually at the start. I'm not sure I love this graph, because I just view this as this lifelong, this Dunning-Kruger effect, if you don't know already, this lifelong sinusoidal sine wave that you just sort of hope asymptotically flattens and compresses out as you keep going. But did I maybe get overconfident after results like this last year, and I'm getting humbled now, and now I think I have no edge and I'm going to be trigger shy? I don't know. Obviously, I given the way I'm not just blind betting some back-tested computer model and praying it works this year, nothing's changed. I'm making discretionary decisions on every football game. I understand that the psychology of thinking through this all and being as self-aware as possible is really important. And yeah, I maybe that seems like it's just something that would exist in all humans for the rest of time, though. What is it? Good times create weak men create hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and on. And it's just this never-ending cycle of getting humbled to the point where you're able to actually win, then winning, and hopefully not getting overconfident. And if you do, getting humbled again. So look, I've had 10,000 times better swings of crazy life-changing levels of this ignorance and knowledge and culture, whatever they want to label these all as, the peak and valley. I think I'm way past the life-defining stage of those. Maybe I'll do a show about each of those in the future. But yeah, this is not an easy thing I'm trying to do. But if it was, it probably would not be worth doing. So thanks for making this long. Let's hope the games do better this week.